Charles, yours is on too. Thank you. Good evening. We have a packed house tonight. I officially opened and called to order the November meeting of the Florence City Planning Commission, and we always like participation. And you know, some nights we have a crowd, and some nights we don't. But we appreciate y'all being here tonight. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the invocation, and I'll ask Mr. Moses if he would give that to us for us.
Always remember, let's learn to pray for one another, because we don't know when it be our last time. Dear Lord, we want to thank you for gathering here today for the citizens of Florence. Lord, we want to thank you for things that we'll do to help us create Florence and make it a better place to live. Lord, we always want to bless everyone here to hear my voice out there in this city today, to know that we all looking out for one another, we pray for one another, we always hope everyone has to be meaningful and gathered by whatever we do for the citizens of Florence. These are the blessed, that's in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. The commissioners have received their packet. They've had a chance to review the minutes. If there are no changes, corrections, or... Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Moses. He's always quick to pull the trigger.
Second.
I got a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. All right, the first item on the agenda is PC 2023-32. This is a request to rezone 110 Oakland Avenue. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman.
Good evening,
members.
sir.
Yes, members of the commission. Please bear with me as I dust off things a little bit. Miss Zlotnicki is out sick, so I have stepped in for her, and we'll be handling the two cases tonight. So
I'm sure we're in good hands.
well, thank you. Before you, for first public hearing and matter in position is the request to rezone 1110 Oakland Avenue from NC 6.1 to NC 6.3. This is designated as Florence County Tax Map number 90114-08-004. This property again is located along the Oakland Avenue corridor. It is adjacent to the Habitat Florence Housing Authority properties, the multifamily properties off of, I believe it's Rose Avenue is the main entrance, backs up to that, but it does front on Oakland Avenue. The adjacent properties are zoned NC 6.1. The property to the rear is NC 6.3, so this is similar to a lot of properties along main corridors where there are transitions occurring in between the densities of the development and the zoning designations. So in this corridor you'll see various zoning designations from commercial reuse to campus, activity center, NC 6.3, and commercial general. So again, this is a very mixed use area as far as the development goes. This is a photo of the existing property. The applicant, Gina Tanner, they are again requesting the zoning designation of NC 6.3. This would allow an increase in the opportunity for density, new housing. They're looking to demo the property and redevelop it. And we do have a proposed site plan showing the redevelopment. This is the proposed site plan. Again, this is a little bit higher density of a proposed development. It would be considered a townhouse style development if as being permitted by the building department. And we have a few inspiration photos provided by the applicant on kind of the idea behind what it is they are looking to redevelop the property as.
Could you go back to that last? Yeah.
Yes.
Is Oakland Avenue the straight road in the front?
Oakland Avenue is located along this corridor here. stairs, so you can't really see the,
Okay.
this would be an internal driveway to the property, and then the Housing Authority's property is
I got you.
located back here.
Thank you, I was confused about that.
And this is a 3D image of the proposed project. Again, this will have the various buffer yard requirements between the use and the adjacent properties, along with the parking requirements and everything that would be required with the site development within our Unified Development Code. This is another view of the property,
And all this on a 50-foot wide?
50-foot wide lot.
Wow, that's amazing.
Isn't that something?
I'm impressed. Y'all did good.
And this is something that I believe that we will be seeing happening more and more as, you know, developments are becoming more and more dense.
Yes.
Construction costs, everything is gearing us towards more dense development, and as within the comprehensive plan, we are looking for infill redevelopment properties. Basic townhouse standards, the minimum lot size for infill development is 1/2 acre. The townhouses are to be oriented with the primary entrance facing the street. All units must be established on single lots and arranged to ensure public access. And all of these items are items that we would review during the development phase. So these would be items administratively approved should the rezoning request be approved. Again, this will occur during engineering and everything with the applicant. And this concludes staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. First of all, I'd like to say the visuals helped me a lot, because I was kind of struggling seeing how you could get 5 units on that, but thank you for doing that and the extra expense that may have occurred. Are there any questions of staff before we go to a public hearing?
I think you just answered mine. There's 5 units.
Yes, 5 total, 4 total.
Oh, 4, okay.
Originally we thought 5, but with the requirements, you have to scale it down.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the setbacks and
Yes.
all that.
Parking report.
Any other questions for staff?
Well, I guess they will come up and explain something.
Well, they have the option, and I would love for you to, if you, what we do next is we open what's called the public hearing portion. This is when we invite the audience and the applicant, if they want to come forward and, you know, speak on behalf of or against, and if you have any problem there with the audience. So I'll open it up to, if you would like to come forward, give us your name, come to the podium, and we'll make it official as far as recording is concerned.
Good evening, I'm Gina Tanner. That's my husband, Chance Tanner.
Good evening.
We
Thank you
are
for being
not originally from Florence, but by way of my father, grandparents, I believe my great-grandparents all born here.
Oh, wow.
I used to come here when I was a child. You know, my parents, we live in California also. My parents used to throw me on a plane and ship me out here when I was little, and I would stay the summer with my grandmother, out in the country with my cousins.
Oh, that
I
is
used to
wonderful.
love coming here.
Yeah.
Got my husband to come out here about 7 years ago, and now he loves it. And we're here more than we are in California. And, you know, I keep telling him about what Florence used to look like, and I just, in my heart, I want it to look like that again.
Thank you.
It's like, you know, I love real estate, but I also really care and desire for it to be that beautiful, quaint, homey town that I remember as a child. So that's really, I would say, the main reason why we're doing this, and we're, you know, really fighting to get something done. Because I think, you know, with the work, it can be great town again. You know, it's possible. But, you know, we just got to put the work in.
Well, Ms. Tanner,
I'm
you are
willing to do
a
it.
blessing to our community, and you, sir, as well. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant, Ms. Tanner?
I'm trying to read through this quick.
Okay.
You said you're building townhouse. Those are townhouse you should
Yes.
And then how many rooms are there?
We're looking at 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
bedroom, two bedroom.
Yes,
So consider that's a single family home, that's what.
yes, and for sale.
And
We're
therefore,
looking to
it'll be for sale?
Yes.
That's that, you answered my question.
Okay.
How long as you for sale? That's
Yes.
what I looked at, single family home for sale, okay.
Any other
Not that it
questions?
matters, but did you say you have moved? You've moved to
Pretty
Florence?
much.
Yeah.
We have a home here. We
Yeah.
have our cars here, everything. We have everything. Everybody asks, they'll text or call and it's like, where are you? Are you guys in South Carolina or California? We're here so much. So,
The taxes are a lot cheaper here, I imagine.
yes. Pretty much everything, except for food.
The community, have you talked to the community, have you met them about this?
I have
I
not.
think this came up one time before. This same property?
No, I have never brought this to any, to the community or the city before.
I know with some concerns before regarding townhomes and some of it in the neighborhoods. And so when it was presented, when we talked about townhomes, it was like some townhomes, like you said, you want the communities to look better and you want to bring that back alive. And when you were talking about the townhomes and everything, the single family detached, looking at it, I like it. I must say, compared to others that I've seen, so I just wanted to say that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I do have one question of staff, and Mr. and Ms. Tanner, this is something that always we have to look at is how does a new project impact the neighbor? And we have a single-family home adjacent to this property, and they are probably elated that y'all are doing this. But has there been any response or call from the neighborhoods or?
We have not received any calls regarding the rezoning.
I was looking for the sign, I never seen it.
Was there a sign placed?
Yes,
accordingly?
yes.
Okay. If there would have been calls of concern, and I don't really understand why, I think the fact that you're offering it for sale gives, as Mr. Moses was concerned about, it gives ownership.
Yes.
People tend to take care of their stuff, and ownership leads to an asset, an investment in life, and we want to see that community be more owners than renters.
Right.
And I think your plan covers all of that.
Yeah.
Now,
And
there's
we
always
see
a
that
chance.
with that size that we can make them affordable.
Yeah.
In the affordable price range. That also that, we are for profit, but
Of course.
with a nonprofit value. So that's why we were looking at those four, and with the size that they can be affordable for young families, single mothers, everyone who deserves to have have home ownership. So.
Absolutely. Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Tanner, very
Thank
much
you.
for coming forward. I'm not going to invite anyone against because we don't have anyone. So I will close the public hearing portion of this and call for a motion.
I move we approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. A motion and a second to approve as requested. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs nay, and the ayes have it. Congratulations. I wish you great success. All right, the next item on the agenda is PC 2023-33. And we have the electors, Mr. Morgan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a request by city staff to amend the Jeffries Creek Overlay District and the floodplain development ordinances. During how we often discover some of these discrepancies, when someone is coming forward with a project and we have to review our ordinances, often we can find some issues or points of clarification that need to be made. During this process, we did discover that when we originally adopted the state floodplain model, we were a little bit ahead of when the state finalized their ordinance, actually. So they provided that to us early on. We moved forward with adoption, and then later when they adopted it, it was about a year or two after we adopted the model ordinance. We have now discovered a few discrepancies in there that need clarification, just because if we do, as staff, conduct a literal interpretation of this, which is what we are certainly required to do, just because of the, with floodplain, there's very little room for intent. It's a very clear-cut ordinance on what can and cannot be done within that area. So we discovered a few discrepancies with the state floodplain ordinance that certainly would have added some pretty significant concerns for anyone doing any work within that area. So we also met with the state floodplain coordinator, as well as our FEMA representative that reviews all this and reviews our ISO rating and everything that we do regarding the floodplain. And they were, of course, highly recommended that we move forward with these changes, and it would not impact our ISO rating, which impacts everyone's insurance. So we'll move forward with this. So in section 4-12.5.1, which is the riparian buffer requirements, our original ordinance stated improvements or other activities that are recognized to disturb land or degrade water quality are not permitted. They recommended that we change this. It creates a lot of limitations. So, for example, we are looking to daylight our stream in the Timrod Park. We purchased the property just north of Spruce Street. We actually purchased two properties, and we're going to be daylighting that property, that stream that's currently within two culverts. And
Please explain daylighting to me, and I'm embarrassed to ask.
Yes. So currently the stream, Gully Branch, in that area is all underground until it hits Timrod Park. And so we've been able to purchase a couple of properties. We've gotten a $5.5 million grant through the State Office of Resilience to do stormwater work within this watershed, and part of that project will be removing the stream from the culverts and bringing it back to its original state. And so with that, the literal interpretation would not allow us to do any of those improvements. It would also not allow for individuals that have existing storage units or anything of that nature, if they need to replace it, we cannot allow them to do that. So the intent of this ordinance is to protect, allow certain activities to occur, but protect the overall health and wellness of our streams. So we added the language, we struck the or degrade water quality not permitted, and added increase the impervious. So it would read improvements or other activities that are recognized to disturb land or increase the impervious area or degrade water quality are not permitted unless demonstrated that said impacts provide for a net reduction of impervious area, contribute to an increased improvement in water quality, preservation of the overall scenic beauty, and wildlife habitat and floodplain functionality. So individuals still be able to do the minimal work within the floodplain, but they cannot cause any additional detriment to it. The next portion is within section 4-12.6.3, which is the flood hazard reduction. And this is getting into really the more area of concern, specifically the area where subsection 2-E.1, we are replacing the impact with the or. So if anyone is doing any specific to building work, so a residential home, if they're looking to add a porch or expand any of that work, it is not impacting the floodway. They are permitted to do certain activities. And depending on the activity, it can require either a no-rise certificate, and this is getting a little technical, but it can require a no-rise certificate by a licensed land surveyor, or you can request through FEMA to amend the federal floodplain maps that they produce every about 10 years. The way our current ordinance reads, it would require both of those, which would cause a significant issue for anyone looking to do simple work. To get a map amendment through FEMA can take very, very long. I have, to give you an example, I applied for a generator grant for our fire station back in fiscal year 22, and I just heard that they finished the review and that they'll be getting back to me very soon. So as you can imagine, any of our residents that are looking to do any improvements to the property, that could have a significant time impact and cause some major issues. So many of the other items was language that was either amended or left off from our original model ordinance that we have added to or struck from the existing ordinance. And with that, that concludes staff report.
All right. Very good work. It amazes me the detail and all the layers that you have to go through. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't have the makeup to be able to sit there and read through all that stuff.
And the floodplain ordinance is one that's very strict, very much like our ISO rating with fire. Through the fire department, we have an ISO rating of 1, which gives every resident in the city a reduction on their insurance. It's the same with the floodplain. So right now we have an ISO of 6, which is not the greatest, but given the number of properties that we have in the floodplain, it's on par with where we should be. But what we certainly, Jerry Dudley did a tremendous amount of work years ago, bringing us from an ISO of 7 to an ISO of 6 and increasing.
So the lower the ISO,
the lower the ISO, the better. And what we do not want to do is put that in jeopardy and drop it back down. So this is all part of that as we move forward and as we look at things, make improvements to the ordinance.
Thank you for what you do. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Moore?
I have a couple. So you're getting a $5 million grant to open some of these Gully Branch in particular, right?
That's right.
So I used to skip rocks at Gully Branch when I was a little boy a long time ago, all right? And we know that Gully Branch is contaminated. We know that. There's no question about that. So when we look at these things where they hook up to Jeffries Creek, which is about halfway down Irby Street, that development area, all that stuff in there is just all wet, all right? So any impact that's done around there, I'm all about property rights. Y'all know that, okay? But as far as amending these or changing this, can we go further to protect all of Gully Branch, and even down that whole area in the back? I mean, if it's a hard rain in Wisteria, there's people in Wisteria and Santee, if they step out their backyards, they're in water almost, So any development in that area it's got to increase the contamination, the runoff, all this other stuff. So, and I did talk to Clint earlier today. All right, so y'all hearing me out. So this basically just gets us to where we're kind of out of the trap, so to speak. But I actually asked if there was a way to be more protective of that area, because it's been contaminated for a long time and nobody's done anything about it. So I think the contamination is coming from a lot of stuff, really. That's my 2 cents. I don't know enough about hydrology to get involved with that thing, all right, much as he does, but I do think that I have gotten a couple calls from people over in that area about not being protective enough of that whole watershed area. So I asked him, I said, can we be more restrictive of this particular area to protect it more, on what we're doing? He said, let's try to get through this first and get everything back to even par, then we'll talk about that. But I just find sometimes if you kick stuff down the road, I've heard Mr. Moses say this a lot, if you kick something down the road, it just never comes back sometimes when you have an opportunity to talk about it. So I've said my piece for those people on that area over that live there. So that's what I told them I'd do.
Well, similar to what's occurring now with this ordinance change, it causes us to look at the ordinance, right? So it shines some daylight on some other things that we need to look at as well. So the original riparian buffer yards and all the requirements that are currently in place, outside of what we're amending tonight, was put in place many years ago. It was put in place back in 2008. Obviously, we have seen a lot of development since that time, and it's only responsible. This is a living, breathing document, and it's our responsibility to make the needed amendments as we continue to grow and change within our area, and take a look at that. So that you brought up a very good point.
Perfect example, I'll tell you, in the beach area, when you look at Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, and Cherry Grove and that end, and you're wondering, gosh, what is all this going to do? What's it going to do? And then when you look at Merle's Inlet, Paulie's, you wonder, why are they so protective of that? Why do they want to do that? Why do they want to do all this? Then you just have to drive up one day and look on the north end, and you're going, oh, I'm glad they're doing that down here to not get where we are there. So that's my only thing I just wanted to bring up.
Gotcha.
That's it,
Appreciate
7
that.
piece.
Yes. Any other questions?
Another question. I remember when I was coming up years ago, there was a flowing well at Jefferson Creek. I never know what happened to it.
There was one in the park there.
In the
wasn't
park,
It was down near Jefferson Creek. I remember there used to be some cold water come out there.
You mean behind Chuck? Well, behind the old gang plank? Is that what you're talking about?
It was somewhere up near the railroad tracks. I know that.
Oh, okay.
It was a flowing well, and it ran constant all the time. And I've been looking. I went back. I thought I didn't go too far, but looking for it, but I don't see it. I was wondering if the city capped it off or sent it someplace else.
I'm not sure.
That's my.
For your time, Clint.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. I will open the public hearing portion of this request and invite anyone that would like to come forward and speak.
Would you like me to come forward, or can you hear me from?
You have to come forward. And you can go to the podium. Yeah, please. And of course, we know your name, but give us your full name, please.
Okay. I'm Wells Cooper, and I have lived in the Jeffries Creek overlay for the last 30 years in 4 different houses within 2 blocks. I don't go very far. I love the neighborhood, and I've noticed over time and throughout my careers as economic development for the county, a hotel and downtown developer, to now working in land protection, I've learned a lot about the balance. And I do very much appreciate Mr. Lawhorn's comments, because that's exactly what needs to happen. Is I do agree that the amendments as proposed, I have no issues with. Get them passed, move on. But I would like to request a committee be brought together to look at the riparian buffer widths on some of these areas. I think it's extremely insufficient. These types of ordinances, if they're not strengthened and the staff is not given the ability to question and stop things that they know are wrong, we're going to have overdevelopment, and those waterways that are already critically impaired are only going to get worse. Case in point, this commission passed the Indigo Towns apartment complex. I don't know how to say it any plainer. It was an absolutely horrible addition to the community. They went in and clear cut right below on a slope of 13 acres of impervious surface. They cut all the trees, putting in very high dense apartment complexes, and it's about 10 feet from the drop off to Gully Branch. So all of those folks that live on Wisteria and Santee, not only will their yard start flooding when a hard rain comes, probably when it sprinkles soon. Not to mention, I can't flush my toilet when the rain comes down hard. That's how bad the water pressure is in that neighborhood. And I know the city's going to great lengths with plans and getting DHEC approval for enormous amounts of funding that's going to have to go into the reconstruction of that infrastructure, and I appreciate all the work that goes into it. But until some of that's done, the staff needs the ability to be flexible to question some of these developments when common sense tells them it's wrong. So I just ask that y'all look back at this ordinance after these amendments are approved to see if there's some ways, especially within the areas of increasing the riparian buffers in critical areas that are already impaired.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Mr.
Well
Moore,
said.
have y'all structured or talked about, and again, we're going to get through tonight first, but maybe it's something that you and your team or association can sit down with planning and put together a committee that works in that direction.
I'd be happy to help in any way. I am not a hydrologist. I know the basics on hydrology. It comes down from the sky and it has to go somewhere. I do know a little more than that with my current job. I am not representing, to be clear on the record, I am not representing PD Land Trust tonight. This is coming from me as a citizen. I also serve on the City Resiliency Advisory Council or Committee at the moment, and these are one of the things that has been brought up as needing the most attention in some sort of resiliency plan, is looking at these ordinances and seeing what ways can we improve it to at least make us pause before we overdevelop in areas that shouldn't be. That one example, Indigo Towns apartment complex, within 5 blocks, there are 7 for-sale properties, 6 of which wouldn't even have to be combined, that exact complex could have gone on, that is already full of impervious surfaces, uphill. So the whole idea of the infill and redevelopment, I think, is a critical area that the city needs to go into and incentivize that versus allowing development to go downslope on critical waterways.
In defense of this commission, I do have to say that we are a recommending body, and it was a very difficult night because I think all of us, well, most of us that were here, in our heart of hearts, it hurt because we felt your pain, but the law gave that property owner the right to build those. And again, we don't change the law, we just have to follow it. Now, where your fight should have been was with city council, but I won't go there. And we don't need to bring that up. I mean, let's not.
You don't want me to comment on the record, right?
I'll get into that.
But you know what? It's a
And I wasn't complaining against, I'm just saying, if there are certain ordinances that can be improved to avoid things like that,
Yes, plan ahead.
it needs to be looked at now, because as is, y'all didn't have a leg to stand on, staff didn't have a leg to stand on to deny it. Because legally,
Exactly.
they were allowed to do it. So if
Exactly.
we can improve some of those things, we won't put ourselves in that situation.
And,
Thank you, Mr. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think that's a fair push, and that's why we're here. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? I mean, we're here to make our community better, and we're here to balance that tension between development and environment. And so, this issue before us, I think, is pretty cut and dry. But it has shown a light, Clint, and you said that earlier. And now that Lyles has sort of spoken to it as well, that it struck a bit of a nerve and something the city does need to spend some time on. And Mark, again, with his comment. So, I think it's well worth the time and effort, and I don't know where that comes from, whether that really needs to come out of council or whether we play a role in that. But I would recommend that we deal with this tonight, but then we also sort of tag a recommendation along with it that says, hey, let's take this opportunity. The light was shown on this issue, and let's try to deal with it.
I will tell you this, Niles. I've already called my city council member and said, look, when this came up, I started looking at it. Yes, I did vote for that legally. I don't think I had a choice because it was in the law. I started looking at some of these borders and the setbacks and all that, and I'm a developer too. I think these are severely undershot. I'm sure the next development I would do, I'm gonna be stung, but I agree with you.
Explain what you said, undershot?
I
Some of the
think it
buffers,
needs to,
10 foot.
I think the
need to be
buffer should
40.
be 4, 5, 6 times
Okay.
what they are
I got you.
currently.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, knowing about what I know about runoff, stormwater, which I know he knows a lot more, but I've been doing it for 20 years, guys. Trust me. So I had no choice to vote the law last time, but there's always a but. I've already told him that, and when he talked about committees, I'd be more than happy to get on that committee with somebody and talk about this because I've already talked to Brian Braddock. I said, look, man, you need to spearhead this. So, and he is. And I think these borders need to be widely, I mean, they're just almost comical when you look at some of them. Honestly, guys, they're almost comical. All right. So I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we should somehow or another put a subcommittee together with whoever, and look at this. I'm not talking about 9 months to a year from now.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, put a 45-day on it and come back before this thing, whatever you got to do. Brian said whatever he's got to do to make this happen. Because this kind of stuff, you just can't sit on your hands. You sit on your hands, 10 years goes by, and the next thing you know, we're wondering why, Gully Branch is still, contaminated.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. So I can assure you that I've already called, my city council member said, I need you to check on this through, you're elected. You got more power than I do, so I think you need to jump into it. So he is.
It would be staff's recommendation, similar to what we,
Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Airbnb ordinance is the first one that comes to mind, where Planning Commission formed a smaller committee that worked with staff to develop the needed changes to the ordinance. And so what I would recommend that we do, which is fully within Planning Commission's right, and actually really a lot of what we should be doing as a commission. So I would recommend that for staff to start conducting our research with other municipalities in North and South Carolina, possibly Georgia, to see some of their ordinances and riparian buffers and various other things that they have in place for us to start putting that together. And then we will work with the chairman to develop a subcommittee that we can put together a final ordinance, working with some stakeholders, that Planning Commission can make a recommendation to City Council for those changes.
Should we put on the agenda for next month, an update,
Yes, certainly.
and then keep it on the agenda until we have the committee formed? There's some structure there.
That's right.
And that way, Mark, we're not going to let it slide under the table
Right.
and another 10 years go.
That's right.
So, do we need a vote to have it on the agenda for next month?
No, we as staff, just working with the chairman, we'll put that on the
Okay.
agenda.
One more quick question, Mr. Chairman. So, what happens? I know what happens in Norwood County. If there's a question like this comes up, and all of a sudden, tomorrow somebody puts in a mega development, the brakes are pumped. So No, hold on a minute. No, we're going to table this for as long as it takes till we have this committee with the public. We look at all this. We're going to pump the brakes on these developments at just, at the last hour, and they just all put them in and say, get it approved, get it approved. So what's staff's position on that? Somebody can come up tomorrow, although it may be legal and all these borders and everything, are we just going to ramrod them through, or are we going to pump the brakes? Really, are we going to do good here and pump the brakes until we figure out what's
Did you
best
say
thing to
the
do?
county does?
The Horry County will shut you.
I'm talking about Florence County.
No, I'm just saying what happens I know what happens in Horry County. In Florence County, I don't know what happens, but I can envision that if someone hears us talking about changing these setbacks, all of a sudden there's going to be 15 developments or whatever developments that'll be approved. I might not build them for 3 years, but they'll be approved. And then what we've done is for naught. So all I'm getting at is, I don't have to run on his office going, let's get all these approved. I've seen it, guys. I'm telling you. I hate to admit it. I've done it one time.
We don't have the growth that Horry County does, but I do.
Well, I've done it in Florence before.
Okay.
I was within the law, and I just had my team do it quickly, and we thought something was going to change, and we knew what the rules were then. We had everything laid out, and we went forward. So my only question, she's there, all right? And if I was sitting in her position, I'd be asking these questions too. Are we going to just ramrod stuff through planning and everybody else, if it's legal, or are we going to pump the brakes and say, hey, I don't know what the legalities are of that, Mr. Chairman. What do we do until we figure out what the right thing to do?
More, will you address that?
Yes, typically what occurs, a city council or a county council would have to pass a pending ordinance, essentially putting a hold on that until the amendments can be made. Something of this nature, I don't know. Again, when we work with developers, often there's the floodplain does not come into an issue very often. I mean, it's certainly there.
Sure.
But we, because of our floodplain ordinance and just the awareness that developers have gotten with everything, we highly recommend, really calls them to subdivide all that area out of their development so that they're not impacting the floodplain in the least bit, and all that's essentially removed from the equation. If we go the pending ordinance change, I think based on these changes, it could be we're looking at probably between reviewing and developing an ordinance, planning commission making recommendation to city council, and then the needed two, assuming everything goes well, the two needed readings at city council. You're looking at a very minimum for a 4-month process. And so with these changes, I would not recommend that we do a pending ordinance. I think that often the developers that we work with, we can discuss this with them, and if we see that issue start to rise, we can certainly go to council and have them, hey, we need to get this put in place.
Yeah, I think we're sort of hopping between subtopics here, and I think we ought to deal with the issue in front of us right now so that we don't get too far off the beaten path. But I would recommend I'd like to call for the vote. Let's get this one off the table, because I think we all agree on the action we take, and then we figure out the next steps with this committee and different things moving forward with council.
All right, I had a call for the vote. I'll officially close the public hearing and call for a motion.
I move we approve as city recommended.
Okay,
Second.
have a motion and a second to approve as city has provided. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. I said that quickly.
I said my piece.
I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like signs, nay. Now, I didn't hear from you.
Oh,
Oh, okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so we are in agreement that we're going to bring it up next month an
We'll
update
we'll
as
place
to
it
where
on
we
the
are.
agenda. If there are any individuals that, Mr. Lawhon, Chairman, any others that would like to be on the committee to review this, please let me know. You don't have to come out, you can tell me.
Absolutely.
After the meeting. And we will start work on developing the changes to the ordinance.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. I have a question.
I have a question. This is going back to Mr. and Mrs. Tanner.
Yes?
Just a comment. I know that you're proposing to do townhomes. One suggestion that I would make is to reach out to the neighborhood associations to let them know kind of what you're doing, and that way you can get feedback from the community in that area. So just wanted to say, because it's all about, like you said, coming back and restoring. So just that was just a suggestion to the community.
Good suggestion. Mr. Keith.
I think last month we have a new member of the commission, and I think we need to properly introduce her and have her say something if she would like.
We actually did that last month, and I asked her, and she would not. She said she preferred not to.
Oh, okay. I wanted to give her the opportunity, so
Yeah, and thank you very
we wouldn't
much.
say
I really
that
want
we
you to say
overlooked
something,
her.
though.
I hate to overlook you.
In fact, Miss Gregg actually brought it to my attention. You got to introduce her, and I said I've already talked to her,
Okay.
and she kept on putting the elbow in it.
Well, I know who she is, but I want to make sure
Yeah,
everybody else
yeah.
does.
We're blessed to have her on the commission, and I won't let your little secret out that you told me earlier tonight. She brings a wealth of knowledge. I'll just say that. Call for a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you all. Mr. and Ms. Tanner, it was a pleasure meeting you all.